She'll be dead soon. Then this house will be ours." Luna's voice carried from the living room. Not a whisper. Not hidden. Loud, clear, and so familiar that it no longer caused pain. It was like a sentence I already knew. It just happened to be spoken aloud today. I stood behind the door, my hand in my pocket. My fingertips touched the small voice recorder, exactly the size of an ice cube in my palm. I didn't step out. I didn't ask why. I didn't argue. I just listened. Precisely. Coldly. As sober as someone who had shed all illusions. Then Daniel's laugh chimed in. A very light laugh, but it was enough. Enough to confirm his agreement. Enough to conclude. In that moment, everything became transparent. I understood my place in the house I built. I was no longer a mother, no longer family. I was just a living utility with a heartbeat. My name is Clara Whitmore, 68 years old. A widow for 19 years. I used to work 2 jobs at once, sometimes 3, to raise a child. Gritting my teeth so he wouldn't see his mother's hands shake from exhaustion. I used to think that such obvious love would be seen. I used to think that all the times I pushed through sickness, through lack of sleep, through evenings of eating bread for dinner, my child would one day understand. This house, every brick, every plank of wood, every nail, I brought home in a pickup truck so old, its engine sometimes groaned louder than my own breathing. No one gave it to me. No one built it for me. No one paid for it for me. I used to think, if you just love enough, people will be grateful. I was wrong. Not everyone knows how to acknowledge, especially when they are so used to receiving that they think it's an entitlement. Before I continue, I want to say this to you who are listening. If you have ever been taken for granted in your own home, if there has ever been a day when you were fully present, but others acted as if you were transparent, if you have sacrificed until you've become a shadow of others, then this story is for you, and I want to know. Where are you listening from? Your bedroom? The balcony? On a bus? Or tucked in bed, letting the video play in the middle of the night? If you are here, please leave a sentence. I am here, so I know I am not talking to myself. 28 p.m. I was washing dishes. Warm water. White soap. My hands were still fast, though my joints had begun to ache with every change in the weather. From the living room, the sound of Luna's live stream flowed out like the wrong background music. Look, everyone. This is my mother-in-law. She lives with us and serves us full time. Honestly, I don't know what else she can do besides that. Daniel laughed. A small laugh. Small, but to me, it rang like pots and pans crashing to the floor. I turned off the water, wiped my hands, opened the second drawer from the bottom. I took out the brown leather notebook, old but not broken. I wrote 19/18/28. They think I was born to serve. I didn't write to complain. I wrote to remember. Smart people, when hurt, don't speak immediately. They observe, they calculate. I walked out to the living room, not angry, not shaking. I placed the hot bowl of pasta on the table. Daniel asked, "Is there anything to eat yet, Mom?" I looked at them for a second. Not long, not tormenting. Just long enough to see clearly the distance between family and a housemate. "There's pasta with tomato sauce tonight," I said. My voice was normal, but colder than anger. Luna didn't say thank you. Daniel didn't ask if I had eaten. Everything was natural, smooth, as if they had been accustomed to me standing behind them, serving, for a very long time. I went back to my room, closed the door gently. I sat on the edge of the bed. The yellow light shone on the mirror at the end of the room. I looked at the woman in the mirror. Not miserable, not broken, just awake. And I said very slowly, only for myself to hear, "Tomorrow, Clara. Tomorrow. Not a day for revenge, but the day I take myself back. Everything that is mine, including respect." The next morning, I woke up early as always. No alarm. My body was so used to routine that it operated on its own, rain or shine. The first light filtered through the curtains, thin and yellow. In the house, everything was silent. I didn't make tea as I did every morning. I just poured a glass of plain water. The water tasted normal, but the feeling inside me was no longer normal. The phone was on the wooden table. I looked at it for exactly 3 seconds. Then I dialed. Adrian. My voice didn't tremble. It was the voice of someone who had decided. A slight pause in breath on the other end. That boy always understood a person's voice when they didn't finish their sentence. "I'm here. How are you? I need to see you. Today." Silence. The kind of silence from an intelligent person connecting the pieces. "Are you at home? I'll be there in 45 minutes. He didn't ask, "What's wrong?" He didn't ask, "Are you okay?" He knew. When I called, the stage of endurance was over. I hung up. No sigh. No anxiety. Just silence. I walked through the living room. The room was exactly the same. The pale gray rug Luna had chosen, a model home style, the white, odorless flowers, the abstract painting devoid of emotion. I used to think this quiet was elegant. Now I realized it was empty. Daniel and Luna were still asleep upstairs. They always slept late, stayed up late, and left me to watch their child. The child in the house woke up before everyone. He ran out, hugging my leg. His eyes were still sleepy. "Grandma, hold me." I picked him up. A small, warm body. The truth is, in this world, only children don't know how to lie. I sat him at the dining table, made toast, and cut strawberries in half. Not elaborate, just enough. Children don't need much to be happy. Half an hour later, there was a knock. Adrian walked in. A dark blue suit, a neatly tied tie. His face was young, but his eyes had seen too many nights staring at files. He looked at the child first and smiled. Then he turned to me. "What do you want to protect?" A simple question, but straight to the point. "I want to protect my home," I said. "Not the asset. Not the bank balance. Home. The thing people live in with memories, with breath, with the times they sat in the kitchen and knew they belonged." "All right." Adrian nodded. "We'll set up an irrevocable living trust. Starting today, the house will be separate from your personal assets. No one can touch it, not waiting until you pass. We do it now." He opened his laptop. Typed, very fast. Not a second wasted. I stood beside him, watching the words appear on the screen. Each character was me taking back a piece of my own respect. Adrian looked up. "But what about Daniel? Where do you want him in this?" I was silent. Not because I didn't know, but because I knew too well. "My son has the right to choose," I said slowly. "But so do I." Adrian pressed his lips into a thin, straight line. He understood. "When do you want to inform them?" "Not today." I poured some water. "Let them think everything is still the same. Until I'm ready." And I was more ready than I thought. The door upstairs opened. The sound of slippers shuffling down the stairs. Luna appeared, hair in a high, neat bun, the style of someone who doesn't like to waste time on anyone but herself. She saw Adrian. She smiled. The social smile used for tagging a boyfriend in photos. "Oh, you're here for a visit?" Adrian looked at her. No bowing. No excess politeness. I'm here to work with the homeowner. He emphasized the last two words like placing a chess piece on the board. Luna froze for a second. Her carefully made-up eyes narrowed slightly. But she didn't ask further. People who are confident they control the situation are never afraid of the first small signal. I looked at her. Suddenly, I felt very calm. Not angry. Not disdainful. Just clear. I had retreated very far back, but as I stepped forward this time, I was stepping towards myself. And when a person who had disappeared chooses to return, no one can stop them. Adrian left around noon. The first page was printed, placed in a black file folder, lying neatly on the table like a confirmation. This house was no longer something anyone could just take. I closed the door behind him. The house was quiet as before, but it was no longer the quiet of someone enduring. It was the quiet of someone waiting for the right moment. That afternoon, Luna put on makeup to film another video. She sat in front of the mirror, the ring light shining white, bright enough to make everything look better than it was. "We're going to a resort for 2 days tonight, Mom," she said, eyes still glued to the mirror, applying lipstick. Daniel came out of the room, yawning lightly. "Yeah, Mom, watch the baby for us, okay? I already booked the room. You can come too if you want, but you probably wouldn't like a trendy resort." Not a single question. Not a single request. Just an announcement. I didn't answer right away. I didn't refuse. I didn't agree. I just looked at my grandson playing with his toy car on the living room floor. I stroked his head. "All right. Go ahead," I said. My voice was normal. Light. But in that sentence, I had signed my Declaration of Independence from the role of emotional slave. 2 days. 2 days was enough. When they left with their suitcases, I stood at the door. No hugs, no reminders, no seeing them off. Luna turned back, raised her phone to film a story. "Handing the house back to mother-in-law. We're off to de-stress." Daniel laughed along. That smile. I used to love it. Now, only emptiness remained. The door closed. The house returned to its proper breathing volume. I stood for a moment, not thinking, not anxious, just breathing out slowly. Then I picked up the phone and called. "Send the movers to the address I sent. Everything in the 2 upstairs bedrooms. Everything. Personal items, clothes, cosmetics, shoes, jewelry, the kitchenware they brought in, the mattress, the decor. Yes, don't miss a thing." The person on the other end spoke professionally. This time, no emotion was involved. I opened the door. 4 men and 1 woman entered. They wore gloves, work boots, and worked so cleanly, so fast, that silence became the background music. I didn't sit and watch. I followed, pointing at each item. That one too. The suitcase in the back of the closet, the handbag in the 3rd drawer, all the cosmetics in the bathroom. No shaking, no hesitation, no regrets. I didn't touch my grandson's things. I folded his clothes into a new dresser, neatly, smelling lightly of soap. By mid-afternoon, the 2 rooms were empty. No more sickly sweet perfume. No more pink dresses and skirts draped over chairs. No more sound of suitcases rolling loudly every morning when they left late for work. Only the house returned to its own rhythm. I called a locksmith. "Change all the locks. Front door, back door, balcony, bedroom locks, and the garage." The locksmith looked at me. He didn't ask why. People who have seen a lot of family matters, they stay quiet because they understand. The new lock was sleek, shiny, heavy in the hand. The click sound when it locked felt like a period at the end of a sentence. I stood in front of the door, my hand on the handle. The feeling wasn't relief, It wasn't satisfaction. It was composure. A kind of quiet that only belongs to the last person standing after all the breakdowns, without collapsing. I walked into the kitchen, brewed a pot of chamomile tea. No rush, no trembling, no thoughts. I poured the tea. I placed the recorder on the table. I pressed play. Luna's voice filled the house that was now mine again. She'll be dead soon. Then this house will be ours. Daniel's laugh followed. I listened. I felt no pain, because I was no longer in the position of the victim. I was in the position of the witness, and the witness is always the one who chooses the time to respond. Not yet. I sipped my tea. Tomorrow, I repeated, but this time, not in a whisper. This time, it was a command. 2 days later, the sky was a light gray. Clouds hung thick, as if trying to block the afternoon light. I was reorganizing the kitchen cabinets when I heard a car pull into the driveway. The gate clanged shut, a sound of impatience, of haste. The sound of shoes striking the cement. A familiar voice, but no longer familiar to its place in this house. "Mom! Mom! Open the door!" Daniel's voice called through the crack. I didn't answer. I walked slowly to the front door. I stood on the inside. Between me and them was only a new lock. Luna was the first to pound on it. "What the hell is this? Why won't the key work? Mom, did you change the locks? Why would you do that? Who do you think you are?" She didn't know that last question was the answer. I am the homeowner. Daniel knocked, softer, but more urgent. "Mom, where are you? Are you okay? Mom, open the door." I turned the handle. The door opened. I stood there. Gray wool sweater, hair tied back neatly, my expression neither cold nor hot, just still. A kind of stillness that leaves the other person with no emotion to latch onto for a counterattack. Luna took half a step forward. "Where are our things?" I tilted my head, very slightly. Not a nod. Not a bow. Just a movement to say, "I hear you. I am fine. I am perfectly lucid." "All of your personal belongings," I said slowly, "have been moved to a storage unit on Ashford Avenue, Unit 209. I have paid for 6 months." Luna burst out laughing, not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who thinks they still have the upper hand. "Are you insane?" Daniel turned to her. "Luna, don't." His voice was low. His lips were tense. Something was beginning to crack. I didn't look at Luna. I looked at Daniel, the 3-year-old boy who had clung to my shirt on his first day of school. The 12-year-old boy who asked, "Are you sad that Dad is gone?" The 22-year-old who hugged me at his graduation. Now I looked at the man in front of me, and I said, "Do you have time to listen?" Not begging, not asking for permission, just asking yes or no. Daniel swallowed once. Yes. I invited them onto the porch. Not into the house, not past the threshold. The space respected the new boundary. I placed the recorder on the wooden table by the door. No explanation, no preamble. I pressed play. Luna's voice rang out, clear, undistorted. "She'll be dead soon. Then this house will be ours." Luna turned pale. Daniel stood motionless. Not a single wasted movement. His own laugh echoed right after. He closed his eyes. His chest heaved with one deep breath. No one said anything. There was nothing to justify. I turned off the recorder. I didn't ask why. I didn't need an answer. I had heard it all. And sometimes the truth doesn't need an explanation. It just needs silence to be absorbed. Daniel opened his eyes, looked at me. His voice was hoarse, as if something was caught in his throat. "Mom, are you kicking me out of the house?" I shook my head. "I am kicking the behavior out of this house." Daniel looked at the ground. He understood. Luna looked at Daniel, panicked, losing control for the first time in this story. You're going to side with me, right? Daniel didn't answer. And sometimes, silence is the most complete answer. I let them stand like that for a moment. I didn't intervene. I didn't decide for anyone. I just held the boundary I had just rebuilt. Then I said, "If you want to stay, Daniel, you stay. But from today, you will contribute to the house expenses as you are able. You will share the housework. You will not assume I am your servant. And you will respect me, not with words, with actions." I turned to Luna. "As for you, you will delete the old videos. You will post an apology. Not for me to forgive, but for you to learn to take responsibility for what you did." Luna opened her mouth, about to argue. But Daniel spoke then, quiet, almost a breath. "Luna, do it." Not because he was obeying me, but because he had heard himself on that recording. When people are confronted with their true selves, they usually lose. I took one step back into the house, one hand on the door, not closing it, just holding it. "I am going to make tea. If you want to talk, come in. If you need time, I am still here. But I am no longer the person standing in the background." I didn't look at Luna again. She was no longer the focus of the story. She was just the trigger. The focus was my return. I closed the door. The click echoed. Sharp, clear, a period, and then a new line. That night, the house was quiet. No live streaming, no laughter, no scent of sweet perfume. Daniel sat at the dining table. His back was slightly hunched, shoulders slumped like someone who had just seen his true self for the first time in years. Luna sat beside him. Her hair was no longer in a high bun. She had tied it back simply, like someone who had just run in from the rain. In front of them was a phone on a tripod. The front camera was on. The ring light was off. No flattering light. No skin-smoothing filter. No background music. Only the truth. Luna took a deep breath. I stood nearby, not looking at her. I was making tea. I didn't need to watch. She had to see for herself. She began, "Hello, everyone. I am Luna Hart. I posted a video that was disrespectful to my mother-in-law. I said things that hurt her. I took her help for granted. I was wrong." Her voice was small, not trembling, but no longer confident, like someone seeing their true reflection for the first time. Daniel placed his hand on the table, not to comfort, but to take responsibility. I didn't look at them. I listened to the sound of water pouring from the kettle into the white porcelain cup. A sound so light that if you weren't paying attention, you wouldn't hear it. But the biggest changes in a home often come from the smallest sounds. Luna continued, "I will be deleting the old video. I will also not exploit her image or my family's in any future content. And I am sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I forgot she was a person." The video ended. No tears. No hugs. No one was acting. Daniel stood up and went to the back patio. The glass door slid shut very gently. Luna remained seated, hands clasped together as if trying to hold herself from falling apart. I brought a cup of tea and set it in front of her. I said nothing. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was an acknowledgement that anyone can relearn. The video didn't go viral right away. No one cared immediately. The world doesn't always revolve around one's pain. But things took a turn when another account posted about it. An account that didn't sugarcoat the story. No clickbait title. That account belonged to Nora Bishop. Nora is my cousin. The person who helped me bury my husband. The person who picked up every fallen spoon in the kitchen on the day I thought I couldn't stand up. The person who doesn't speak flowery words, but speaks the truth. Nora filmed a simple video. No color grading, no music. Just her, standing on her porch, the afternoon sun filtering through the trees. She said, "This is Clara Whitmore's house. I watched her pay for every brick with her back and her bones and her time. No one gets to take that for granted. No anger, no accusation, just the truth." Nora continued, "When a woman goes silent, it's not because she is weak, it's because she is counting." One sentence, like a nail hammered into the door of everyone who ever looked down on someone else. That clip spread like fire in a dry wind. No drama, no fights. It just went straight to the heart of everyone who had ever been taken for granted. The comments started pouring in. "Mrs. Clara, I understand that feeling. I'm also treated like a machine in my own house. I'm listening from Delat. I'm listening from the company bathroom so I don't cry in front of people. I am here." And my quiet house was suddenly filled with people who had never stepped inside, but who understood me more than the people who had lived with me for years. I just read. I didn't reply. I didn't need to speak. People already knew who I was. That night, Daniel returned to the living room. His eyes were red, but he wasn't crying. When men truly understand they are wrong, they don't cry out loud. They just breathe differently. "Mom," he said. Just one word. But for the first time in years, it had weight. I poured more tea. "Sit." He sat. No one apologized. No one asked for forgiveness. No one brought up the past. We just sat, drank tea, and were silent. But this silence was different. It was the silence of two people starting over. The next morning, sunlight fell into the kitchen as if it was used to this house having only one leader. I woke up, made tea, and prepared a simple breakfast. Eggs, toast, cut fruit. No one asked me to do it. No one expected me to do it. I did it because this is my house, and I cook for those who appreciate it. Daniel came down first. No noise. No rush. He looked at the kitchen as if seeing a place he had forgotten for many years. "Do you need help with anything, Mom?" he asked. A simple question. But it was the question I had been waiting for all these years, without knowing I was waiting. I just replied, "You can wash the rice for me." Not, "Thank you," not emotional, just a normal thing that should have always been normal. Daniel stood next to me. Two people, not speaking. But for the first time after many rainy seasons, I didn't feel like I was standing alone in my own kitchen. Luna came down late. No makeup, not live streaming. She sat down in the chair very lightly, like someone unsure if she had the right to sit there anymore. I didn't look at her, not cold, just not making her the center. I placed a cup of tea in front of her. Not, "I forgive you," not, "Let's move on," just a fair gesture. "I don't want a war in this house," I said. "But from today, we treat each other like adults. No one here takes anyone for granted." Luna nodded. For the first time, not defiant. "I've booked a therapy appointment," she said, her voice so small it almost dissolved into the steam. "I'm going. Alone. Not for my appearance. I need to relearn how to be a person." I didn't say good. I didn't pat her shoulder. Because an act of change doesn't need applause. It needs to be sustained. I just poured more tea. Very quiet. The day passed slowly, but not heavily. The house had sounds. The sound of a spoon touching a bowl, the sound of a child laughing as he spilled milk, the sound of running water, the sound of a door opening without any tension hidden behind it. It wasn't happiness. It was being able to breathe. In the evening, I sat on the porch, a light breeze, a calm sky, the sound of insects scattered like punctuation marks in the air. My grandson ran out and hugged me. He climbed into my lap and fell asleep almost instantly. I stroked his hair, soft and heavy like my heart right now, no longer aching, just ripe. Daniel sat down next to me. His hands rested on his knees, not searching for words, not trying to hide. "Mom," he said, his voice deep, raw, undefended. "I made you disappear in your own house." I looked up at the sky. The clouds were thin, not dark, not bright, just real. "I allowed it to happen," I replied. "Not rescuing, not accusing, just fair." He bowed his head. "I will relearn." I nodded. "Not praising, not coddling." "Then start with washing the dishes tonight." He chuckled. A light sound, not evasive. A laugh that, for the first time, didn't hurt me. He stood up and went into the kitchen, naturally, without acting. I sat there with my sleeping grandson in my arms. He breathed softly, each steady rhythm a reminder. Life doesn't have to be loud to be living. It just needs real people, really staying. I looked at the front door. A new lock. But the thing that changed wasn't the lock. It was me. I was no longer the person standing in the shadows. I stepped out. I stood in the middle of my house. I have a name. I have a voice. I have boundaries. And I am still here. If anyone asks me what I did to get it all back, I will say I just stopped disappearing. If you are listening to this story, and somewhere in your own home, you have also been taken for granted, been seen as an entitlement, been slowly disappearing without anyone noticing, then I want you to know one thing. You are not invisible. You were never invisible. You were just silent for too long, and if today you only have enough strength to stand up inside your own heart, without saying it to anyone, without changing anything yet, without leaving or returning, that is still enough to begin. You are already walking. It's okay to be slow, as long as you are walking towards yourself. Now, before this video ends, I want to ask you just one question. Where are you listening to this story from? Your bedroom? The balcony? A kitchen lit by a dim yellow light? Or a place you've never told anyone about? Please leave a word, just one sentence. I am here. So I know you are still staying with yourself. And if you want to hear more stories about people who seem quiet, but inside hold a whole life that has never collapsed, please subscribe and turn on the bell. I will be sitting here, in my house, and I will keep telling them. We will meet in the next story. Still you, still me. Still the people who no longer want to disappear.